What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. It's Saturday, so time to take a look back at the last 2 weeks, talk about the players who have fallen the most by ADP. 2 weeks ago, we predicted that Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk, Brian Robinson, Jamal Williams, and Courtland Sutton would all see their ADPs fall. We once again went 3-2 with those predictions. Brian Robinson, Jamal Williams, and Courtland Sutton all fell by ADP, but Gabe Davis, Christian Kirk both rose half a spot. I still don't get why people like them so much, but hey, opens up the door for a little bit better value for us in the middle round. So we'll try and hit on all 5 at the end of this video, but right now, let's talk about who has fallen over the last 2 weeks. Number 1 faller, Jimmy Garoppolo. It's actually number 1 by like a lot. He's down a round and a half into the 18th round. I've seen him go undrafted in a lot of drafts recently. So not only fallen into the 18th, fallen just outside of the top 18 in many leagues. Now, I actually think this is a mistake. None of us know what's actually going to happen, right? We have no clue how his foot is going to recover, but people are reacting like it's a lock that he's just never going to play this season. And that's just entirely untrue. The fall, of course, if you don't know, comes from the fact that the Raiders changed his contract basically to have injury protection, to where it's like totally fine if he doesn't play this season, they can just get rid of him. Like, they're just covering themselves. But the most likely outcome still is, and what the outcome the Raiders want to happen is, that Jimmy Garoppolo is their quarterback, and he is like a slightly worse version of Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is a better quarterback, but it's not like Derek Carr is all that good, right? He's pretty mediocre. And so drop off, yes. Big drop off, not really. And so people just not even wanting to draft him in the top 18 rounds, I really do think that people are very much overreacting to an injury protection that like is relatively common among older players, and especially players coming off of a surgery like this. And it's not like it's a major surgery or anything. He's probably going to be just fine. It's just protection. So yeah, I think people are overreacting on this one. It's honestly causing all Raiders ADPs to drop. I didn't mention them in this video because it's only a few spots, but like Adams is down from like the pick 10 to pick 12, I think it is. Myers down. It's like 1 or 2 spots from around like 117, 118, that general range, a little bit further than that. You've got Michael Mayer. He's dropping actually probably like 5 or 6 spots. So it's like everyone on the offense is going down. I really just think people are overreacting to this one. I want to start getting maybe some Jimmy G stacks, with, if you can pretty easily get like an Adams and Myers with Jimmy G, I'm probably going to start doing that. Sticking with quarterback, Trey Lance down a little bit over a round. I've had Lance projected outside the top, maybe 500 players. I don't even know. I haven't projected like 30 points this season because I'm projecting Purdy as a starter. So it's not shocking to me. I haven't like changed anything based on recent news, but I think that people are realizing that Purdy has, not 100% chance of being healthy by week 1, but a good chance. And they've made it clear that if Purdy is healthy enough to play, that they prefer him to be the starter, that he will start the season as the number 1 quarterback. Will he end the season that way? Tough to know. If he struggles, if Lance looks good, they could absolutely flip things around. But I just think Lance falling is people understanding, okay, if Purdy's healthy, Lance is not going to start the season as a quarterback. And let's be honest, in the range that Lance was going in, there were quarterbacks we're pretty confident are going to be starting the entire season. So not a shock. Again, I'm drafting Purdy and not Lance. I wouldn't say I'm really drafting Purdy all that much, but if Purdy falls, if I've got a really good 49ers stack, I'll do that. I just think Purdy's probably going to be a starter in week 1. Some late round wide receivers that are fallen are Josh Downs and Mecole Hardman, both dropping almost around about 10, 11 spots. Downs has a knee injury. The team didn't really feel like expanding on it other than just saying it's minor, don't worry about it. Obviously not good news for a player to have a knee injury right now. It's usually not that big of a deal, but I'll say it's less of a concern someone who's in year like 3, 4, 5, someone who is relatively entrenched in the offense, understands the playbook, maybe is familiar with the quarterback. I mean, you've got a rookie quarterback, you've got a rookie with the knee injury. Like, these are very, very important days in camp. And so to be out with an injury, that's tough. I agree with the drop until he comes back. You know, if he comes back in like a week or something like that, and he's totally fine, good reports, we can bump him right back up. But I do think it makes sense to have someone fall in ADP when they're a rookie, you know, right at the beginning of camp, catching passes from another rookie. It just adds a lot of risk to the situation. And then you got Mecole Hardman. I'm pretty sure he's fallen because it's now basically a lock that Corey Davis is going to stay on the team. And so people are looking at it, they're like, okay, well, you know, Davis, Lazard, Wilson, like, they're going to be the top 3 wide receivers. That's just pretty much a lock. We really do know that Mecole Hardman is much more of a gadget player. They've said that they want to expand his route tree, but at the end of the day, he's more of a gadget player. And so as the number 4, that's much less appealing than number 3. There was a time where it was like, ooh, Corey Davis might be gone. We might have Hardman as a 3. It's looking very likely that Hardman's going to be the 4. That's not super ideal. At running back, Zeke continues to fall. He's down 9 spots into the 15th round now. I don't totally get this one. Like, obviously, yes, he hasn't signed yet. That's what we see every single year is you've got these free agents, and for basically every week that they don't sign to the team, they're going to keep slipping, right? Because they're not on a roster. It just adds more risk. You know, what if someone turns into Will Fuller, who I think I drafted, was it last year or 2 years ago, like 15% of in my leagues, and then he didn't even end up playing on a team. And so it's like, yeah, you have that risk that like they just never sign and you just take a 0. That's very, very bad. But let's be honest, like, Zeke is going to sign at some point. Someone is going to give him a contract. It might not be the contract that he wants. They might not use him to the same levels we saw before. Actually, it's almost guaranteed he's not going to see the same usage as before, but he's going to sign with someone. He's going to have a real workload. It's not going to be, you know, a backup role where he's getting like 3 touches per game. He's going to get touches on an offense, and whenever he signs, his ADP is going to go up. And so if I think there's a close to 100% chance he's going to sign somewhere, I don't think his ADP should be falling this much. If you want to slip it, you know, 1 or 2 spots per week that he doesn't sign, sure, but it's fallen a lot. There's really not that much more room it can go, and 9 spots in 2 weeks is a little bit aggressive. So don't know that I've been taking very much of him, but I think I might start to if his ADP keeps falling, because again, he's going to sign somewhere. Moving a little bit earlier, quarterbacks continue to fall across the board. I believe I talked about this 2 weeks ago, but the trend continues. If you use the ADP app on my website, which is free for anyone to use, you can see that only 1 quarterback has risen more than 1 spot in the last 2 weeks. 24 have fallen at least 1 spot. All of the top 10 quarterback fallers have dropped at least 4.5 spots. That's a lot. And obviously the biggest fallers are going to be, you know, the ones going later. They have more room to fall. But there's actually a lot of fallers also around like pick 100, that general range. A lot of those guys are down like 4 or 5 spots, but even Justin Fields down 4 spots from pick 37 to 41. Josh Allen is down 3 spots from pick 20 to 23. Burrow down 3 spots, 41 to 44. Hurts is down 2 spots. Mahomes is down a spot. Like, basically every single quarterback, I think it's besides Kenny Pickett, is down right now. So the people have spoken. They are waiting on quarterback right now. And I don't think this is necessarily a bad move, and it's probably something you should just understand in the back of your mind when you're drafting, that if all quarterbacks are slipping right now, that means it is very likely that at some point in the draft, there will be a quarterback that falls maybe around past their ADP. That's the one that I would take. I know I talked earlier this week about how I really do want a top 8 quarterback this season. That's still absolutely true, especially because, you know, like all the top 8 quarterbacks have fallen in ADP, so it makes them an even better value, and I'm still attacking them. But it makes it more beneficial to you to be patient. If, you know, 24 have fallen at least 1 spot, it's likely one of those 24 is going to become a really nice value. So be patient at quarterback right now. If it starts to flip, they start going earlier, maybe be a little bit more aggressive, but if they're all going to be falling, be patient. In terms of non-quarterback fallers inside the top 100, Pacheco is down 4 spots, now going in the 7th round. McKinnon signed a month ago, so that's not the reason for the fall. I think it's Clyde. Clyde's getting some positive reports in camp. Of course, Clyde was a first-round pick. He has been a bust. He's probably going to be a bust, but it's not ideal. It's like, it doesn't really matter how you feel about those reports. Like, whether you believe it or not that Clyde is having a good camp or they're just kind of hyping him up, it doesn't matter. It's still not good for Pacheco if they sign McKinnon, they're talking up Clyde. It's like, now there are just more outs to Pacheco not having that fantastic of a season, or even just a fine season. But like, in the 7th round now, it's the early 7th round, you still do need Pacheco to maintain like a pretty strong lead of the backfield to outproduce his ADP, to return like 5th round value, which is what you'd prefer, right? You're not going to win anything if all your picks just like basically return value. You need some players to break out, to outproduce their ADP. And so it's looking a little bit less likely that at a 7th round ADP and at what was a 6th round ADP that Pacheco does that. And so just not a pick I have a ton of confidence in right now. I'm not saying he's going to be bad, but I just think in that general range, I think people are leaning wide receiver, and I think that's the right move. It's a really good range for wide receiver. If you want to go with like a tight end that fell, if you want to go with a quarterback that fell, that's totally fine. But like, wide receiver is really, really good in round 7. I think just lean that over Pacheco. DJ Moore, also down 4 spots, now into the late 4th round. We've talked about how he has been going too early in recent weeks, just given the limitations of the Bears' passing offense. Still a good offense in general, and I think they can be a lot better than people think, but the limitations of their passing offense, they're not going to air the ball out all that much. And I do still have him ranked 7 spots behind his new ADP, so he still does have a little bit of room to fall even more. But I'll say this, like I said a few seconds ago, I do still like the Bears offense. I think they have upside. And you all know I've loved DJ Moore as a player for years now. I think he's extraordinarily talented. So even though I was, over around behind ADP about a month ago and saying that he was like a bad pick at his ADP then, everything is relative to ADP. I'm still not drafting him in the 4th round. But if he keeps falling, it makes it more likely as a player falls and he dips into the 5th round, well, now maybe I'm in a draft where he goes in the mid 5th round. He's available in the late 5th round. Well, then I am much more intrigued. That's generally where I have him ranked, is the mid 5th round. So if in my draft he falls into the late 5th round, I'm going to start drafting him. And as his average ADP approaches round 5 and potentially makes its way into the mid 5th round, more and more leagues I'm in are going to have him available in the late 5th. That is really where I would love to be drafting him. So haven't been getting him much yet. I think I took him in like 1, maybe 2 leagues so far. But as ADP drops, I'm going to start getting more of him because, again, I still like him as a player. Everything is relative to ADP, so hopefully he keeps dropping. Another mid-round faller is DeAndre Swift. Just like Pacheco, he has worked his way into the 7th round, and I have a very similar take with Swift as I do DJ Moore. Like him as a player, probably not as much as I like DJ Moore, but still like him as a player. And I have no problem drafting him, but people have been overrating the situation and just taking him a little bit too early. I have Swift as an early 8th round pick, and if he's going to fall into that range, I'm perfectly comfortable taking him, especially, as kind of an upside pick, but I'm not willing to do so earlier than that. The positive impact of like being on the Eagles offense for running back is in the red zone. Ton of red zone fantasy points, ton of fantasy points on the ground. It's not as much as like a receiving back. You don't get as much production in that offense. They don't throw to running backs all that much. Again, mobile quarterbacks will do that, especially hyper mobile quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts. And so a much better spot for Penny. Penny's someone that goes even later than Swift, who I've been drafting more of. But if Swift can keep falling, he's still a very athletic player. He's still someone that has plenty of upside. He can hit, But again, I think the fall makes sense. I think he should be falling a little bit more. So those are the top fallers, but who do I think are going to fall over the next 2 weeks? One big one I see is Travis Etienne. He's going around that like round 3-4 turn right now, which I definitely think is too early, especially with all of the hype around Tank Bigsby right now, especially in the receiving game. I think people are, drafting Bigsby a lot earlier, and they're going to start to realize that, like, Etienne's going really early, some really, really good wide receivers in that general range. And honestly, even some really good running backs as well, although I will say the running back production definitely falls off as you get into round 4. But I still think people are going to start to be a little bit wary, see that he wasn't amazing in the receiving game last season, that if they bring in Tank Bigsby to fill that role, his upside's going to be limited. And so I think people are going to start to not take him around 3-4 turn. He's going to be closer to like the mid-4th round in 2 weeks. I also see James Conner falling. I think Hopkins getting released has people starting to see the floor of this offense, because if Hopkins was there, if they had Marquise Brown, James Conner, it's like, okay, maybe they can survive for a little bit while Kyler Murray is out. But with Kyler Murray not expected to be healthy early in the season, with Hopkins now gone, the offense it's going to be really, really bad. And I think people are going to start to lose confidence in Conner because he's so touchdown dependent. Well, if they're the worst offense in football, that's not great. Next one is a little bit bold, but I think it makes sense just because his ADP is on the trend up right now. And so to say it's going to fall and he now needs to like reverse course, stop, come back down. But Ramondre Stevenson, Ty Montgomery's been getting a lot of hype in camp. I do know for a fact that they actually do like Ty Montgomery. They are very much considering him as their third down back. They opened the season last season with that happening. Then he got hurt right away. But there's a very real chance that Stevenson is not like the featured back we saw last season. Going in the mid-3rd round right now, his value is obviously going to take a hit if Ty Montgomery is stealing a ton of third down snaps. So watch out for that. Watch out for the reports on Montgomery. And I really think people are going to see that and be like, oh, he's going in the 20s right now for like overall. I think it's 28th. That's a little bit too early. I think people are going to pump the brakes, and that's going to drop. I also think Evan Ingram is going to fall just a little bit. People are really in on Calvin Ridley, really in on Christian Kirk, and then Evan Ingram has been practicing. When you don't practice, there's nothing that's going to push your ADP up. And if there's a bunch of people who really like the wide receivers ahead of you, I think in people's minds are going to be like, oh, wait, with both those wide receivers commanding a ton of targets, Zay Jones still there, the running backs commanding targets, the upside of Evan Ingram is much lower than it was last season. I think his ADP will fall a little bit. Then finally, 5th predicted riser, Courtland Sutton, again this week. I think his ADP is going to continue to fall. If Marvin Mims gets any sort of hype, it hasn't even happened yet, and he's already going up in ADP because he's awesome. But if he gets any sort of hype in camp, Sutton is going to drop. People are going to be like, oh no, like what if Sutton gets overtaken, or what if some of these targets go away? He wasn't even that great in recent years. He's going to be even worse now. So since I really like Marvin Mims as a player, and I think, yeah, he's going to get a lot of hype in camp because he's really good, I think Sutton's going to fall a few more spots the next 2 weeks. So those are the biggest fallers over the last 2 weeks, and 5 players I think will fall even more over the next 2 weeks. You can always see the latest ADP movement for free on my website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. I'll be back tomorrow to go over some optimal underdog strategies. Monday, with another episode of Mock Draft Monday, and then Tuesday, live 6:30 Eastern to draft with all of you and answer any questions you have. That, my friends, is the end of this one. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, how about hitting the like button, and how about subscribing to the channel if you're new here? Thanks for watching.